Hello everyone, I'm Alison Steinberg and welcome to In Focus. As the government shutdown continues to seem likely, a major point of contention within the GOP is money for Ukraine, a war based on borders and the horror of Ukraine being invaded by Russia. Yes, invasions are horrific, such as the Great Invasion of America. Different enemy. The deaths may not be from a military, but aren't we watching the death of a nation? So where's the fight over border security? The Biden administration works hard to hide the actual number of illegals who have invaded since he took office, but estimates are close to 7 million. A new secret program to fly illegal aliens from their home country right over the border to the city of their choice has been discovered. The Daily Signal is reporting that federal government program has allowed more than 200,000 illegal aliens to fly right over the border. How are they doing this, you may ask? Well, that's through the CBP One app, which, as a refresher, is an app for smartphones and tablets that allows illegals to make an appointment to fly directly into the U.S., bypassing the border altogether. This program is a key tool to hide the number of illegals they're intentionally bringing into America. They're flying under the radar, literally. It's like a new U.S. government travel agency. Think Expedia, but for illegals. And like Expedia, you can make arrangements when you arrive, or your travel agent can. And in this case, the government is the travel agent. So when the clients, aka illegals, arrive in the U.S. by train, plane, or smuggle, the Biden administration will help them by providing them government-issued IDs. These IDs will be like your driver's license, showing photo or QR code, and information like name and age. Part of the DHS pilot program will be for the migrants to access all the benefits paid for by you, the taxpayers, of course. But wait, the left always argues that we can't secure our elections with voter IDs because it hurts the poor people and minorities who can't get one. Other arrangements are something the Biden administration calls freedom runs, where the Border Patrol drops off illegals into cities like San Diego and sets them free. Take a listen.
You're free to go to call anywhere you want. You're free to.
Okay, it's no problem if I go to Chicago.
Anywhere you want. You're free to.
Not unlike a flight attendant, illegals, you're now free to move about the nation. Go to New York because it'll be at least 2034 before you have to show up in court. But whatever your destination is in the U.S., enjoy your time on America's dime. Of course, absolutely none of this is legal. I'm not JD, but according to Cornell Law School, this is all a direct breach of 8 U.S. Code 1324, bringing in and harboring certain aliens. Section 1, which states that anyone who, quote, encourages or induces an alien to come to, enter, or reside in the United States, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that such coming to, entry, or residence is or will be in violation of law, end quote. Here to discuss is CEO of Liberty Sentinel Media, Alex Newman. Thanks for being with us, Alex. It's great to have you back.
Great to be here. Thank you, Alison.
So just incredibly disturbing news surrounding the illegal alien invasion in America. Alex, from what I can tell, it sure seems like the U.S. government is not just not doing anything in regards to the illegals. They're actually encouraging them to enter at this point. I mean, you have the CBP One app that's allowing complete unfettered access into the nation, which is insane in and of itself. And then you have criminal cartels exploiting the CBP One app by using VPNs to trick the system to make it think that they're actually closer to the border than they really are. So it's just totally smooth sailing for them. Everything has been set up to help them and encourage them to come on in. Alex, what is going on here, and how much longer can we sustain this absolute insanity?
Well, there's several things going on here, Allison. One, I think, is an actual war on the United States of America and a broader war on the concept of nation states, right? We know from the Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament, Deuteronomy, Acts, God is the one who created nations. He divided mankind into nations because he wanted nations. And yet the United Nations has repeatedly told us, the UN, the globalist organization, that they want to pretty much eliminate that. In fact, they actually said that mass migration was one of their tools to accomplish that. Peter Sutherland, who was their migration czar some years ago, openly openly came out and said, look, now that we've got all these migrants here, we need to recognize we're just all one human family. Forget your borders, forget the historic memories of your country. So that's one thing that's going on. On another level, we have, I believe, a war on the United States being perpetrated by foreign powers with help from key members of the Biden administration. Right now, crossing our border, we've got members of the Venezuelan military. We've got special operations forces from communist China coming over here. We've got Islamic jihadists, all of them going into position, waiting for the signal to start sabotaging key infrastructure, our communications, our electric grid, our transportation, our sewage and water systems. And obviously, this is a small segment of the people flowing across the border. But if I were to ask you, how much arsenic are you comfortable with in your orange juice? How many poison elements are you comfortable with in your Big Mac? The answer is going to be not very many, and that's what we're dealing with right now. And of course, the Biden administration knows all this. I've spoken with numerous former leaders of all the key agencies, Customs and Border Protection, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They've told me that the Biden administration is deliberately removing our border. And what's even worse, once they come in here, they put them on the taxpayer dime. They're deliberately trying to overburden our key systems, healthcare, infrastructure, etc., for the purpose of stirring up unrest. And so as they're bringing these people in, as they're literally flying them across the border, sometimes at taxpayer expense, they're then brainwashing them and their children to believe that America's an evil, racist, horrible nation based on white supremacy. And of course, I grew up in Latin America. We were taught constantly that America was evil. America is the source of all the problems in our country. America has been exploiting us and all the rest of it. So you're getting huge numbers of people coming across that border who believe that the United States of America is the cause of all the horrors in their own country. This is a recipe for disaster, Allison. If you want to see what it looks like, check out London right now. They now have a Muslim mayor. They now have a pagan prime minister. Look at Sweden. Look at Germany. That's where we're headed, and we're headed there very rapidly.
It is frightening, to say the least, and I just can't believe this is America. It's so devastating to witness. Alex, you recently wrote about the immigration tsunami swallowing the state of Illinois on your website, libertysentinel.org. Can you tell us more about these refugee tent cities and how many millions of dollars are being poured into this?
Yeah, thank you, Allison. So this is actually happening all over the country. I focus in on Illinois and Chicago in particular. It's a sanctuary city. And so what's going on here is they're getting so many illegal immigrants, they literally can't deal with it anymore. So they now have dropped officially at least $30 million. My guess is that number will radically inflate before this is all over. But they're building these giant tent cities now to house all these illegal migrants that are pouring across the border. Similar things are going to be happening in other major cities, Denver, New York, Miami, you name it, San Diego. This kind of thing is now happening all across the country. And again, it's deliberate, it's by design. So folks, if you live in one of these big cities or if you live in a small town, recognize this is coming soon to your community. Your systems will be overburdened, your healthcare systems, your food systems, your sewage systems, and America is going to look increasingly like a third world nation if we don't get this under control. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like Republicans are very serious right now about stopping it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you are correct about that, and it's just sad to see because it seems like quite a simple solution here that could have been taken care of long ago, and here we are just allowing the issue to grow worse by every passing day. It's just horrific. Alex, what are we to make of the U.S. government not only clearing the way for migrants to get work permits now in New York, but also the fact that the Biden administration is now giving photo IDs to the illegals? I mean, this is completely unprecedented. I don't think it's ever happened in American history as far as I'm concerned. What are your thoughts on this, and could this potentially down the line tie to the digital ID we know is in the works so they can ultimately monitor and regulate whatever benefits are being offered and just transition us all to perhaps sort of a universal basic income, which the globalists talk openly about in their plans to implement Agenda 2030? Do you think this is perhaps the trial run for what's to come?
No question about it, Allison. And that's what these people typically do. They start off with a pilot project like this, and then gradually it expands to more and more populations. That's what they're doing right now. They're rolling out the infrastructure that's going to make possible these totalitarian systems like digital identification, like birth to death tracking of every aspect of your life. And then there's also another element to this, which is related to the war on America. They want as many people coming here as quickly as possible. So you've got the United Nations, the Biden administration, Soros, even the EU EU, down in Latin America, even in Africa, telling people, look, go to America. You're going to get an ID. You're going to get a work permit. You're going to be able to get welfare money. You'll get an apartment. You'll get school for your children, food for your family. And hey, they'll even pay for your trip in many cases. So what they want to do is put a big green light up there, bring as many people as possible into the United States. This is very deliberate. This is very, very strategic. And I actually watched this play out in Sweden before moving back to the United States. They did almost the same thing. Is that if you get here, you get ID, you get benefits, you get apartments, we'll feed you. We'll even send airplanes down to go and get you. And if you want to know what the future looks like, again, you can look to some of these nations that have been dealing with this already. We're at the point now where a lot of these European nations, the native populations are going to be a minority within their own country within a few generations. You have a lot of the major European cities where the natives are already a minority. London, Brits are a minority. Frankfurt, Germans are a minority. Malmo, Swedes are a minority. Brussels, Belgians are a tiny minority. And America will take a little bit longer to get to that point, but we're moving very rapidly in that direction. And all these free benefits and free IDs and free work permits for anybody who crosses that border with help is basically like a giant magnet saying, get on over here as quickly as you can.
Yep, I totally agree. They want to flood the first world with third world problems, so they just even out all of society, right? They don't want standout nations or exceptional nations because they're more difficult to control. So, Alex, I guess that leaves me with the question, what do we do about this? Where do we go from here? How do we try to put an end to this? And what does our future look like if we don't stop this? Is it even possible to halt this at the rate we're going, or are we already in too deep?
Well, the future, if we don't stop this, looks like very much like Rich Higgins explained in the Higgins memo at the National Security Council. He was the director of policy and planning there during the Trump administration. He says these globalists, jihadists, socialists, communists have formed an alliance to take down the United States, not just as a nation, but also as an ideal. That's where this is headed if we don't get it under control. But the good news is it is possible to get this under control. I'm glad you mentioned that federal statute earlier. What these senior administration officials are doing is a crime of monumental proportions against the American people, against our country. It's a flagrant violation of their oath of office to the Constitution and the constitutional laws passed by our Congress. The Republicans who control the House of Representatives could stop this right now if they wanted to, Allison. We've got the budget fight happening right now. They want us distracted with the impeachment. Obviously, Joe Biden needs to be impeached, but they want us distracted with the impeachment inquiry while they try to ram all of this spending to give Joe Biden everything he wants through Congress without us even noticing. All the Republicans have to do right now is say not one more penny for Homeland Security, Department of Justice, etc., until these things are brought under control. And by the way, anybody involved in smuggling illegal immigrants into the United States, whether you're acting under color of law or not, is going to go to jail. They have the power to do this. It'll depend on whether the American people can put enough pressure on to see if it actually happens.
Absolutely. So you heard it, guys. The pressure is on. Call your representatives. Let them know how you feel because the clock is ticking and we do not have much time left. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for all of your great work. I really appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Alison.
Take care.
We'd like to welcome you to our new home for uncensored news and hard-hitting talk shows. If you're tired of cable companies and social media giants chipping away at your most basic and important right, freedom of speech, by shadow banning, demonetizing, censoring, and policing every single one of your posts, then One America News on Locals is just what you've been looking for. Finally, you'll have the freedom to express your point of view and stay connected with like-minded fellow patriots. And the best part is, OAN on Locals is only $5 a month. All of our credible, honest, unbiased reporting, ad-free talk shows, and exclusive content, all at the fraction of the cost of cable. So to watch, just click the join button to get the news you can't get anywhere else.